More annoying bugs are popping up with the Canon EOS R5 Mark II, but this particular bug has to do with the performance of the autofocus system that appears to be widespread, in which one person's camera required repairs. But before we get to the details, please subscribe to this channel. It doesn't cost you anything, helps this channel grow, and keeps you up to date on the latest camera coverage. Do you have the Canon EOS R5 Mark II? Well, if you do, have you happened to notice any issues with the autofocus system, particularly with it becoming jerky? And I'm not talking about beef jerky.
You want some beef jerky?
A bad kind of jerky. In fact, so bad that one person in Japan had to send their camera in for repair. The owner had sent the camera into Canon after noticing a jerky autofocus frame movement, and Canon replaced the rear multi-controller and other parts to address the issue. The camera owner said it turns out to be a defect that occurs with all EOS R5 Mark II enclosures, at least under certain conditions. I think you know where this is going next, so he sent it into repair, and this is one of those issues that unfortunately requires a service condition or service maintenance ticket, right? Well, yes and no. Canon did confirm the issue. Regarding the issue you mentioned, autofocus frame movement is jerky. We have confirmed that the issue also occurs on the same model that we own. We're currently checking the details, including whether there's a workaround, so please wait a little longer. We have also confirmed that some multi-controller operations may not respond properly, so we're replacing parts of the rear cover unit, including the multi-controller. So it's time to send your camera in for repair, right? To book a service appointment to get your camera fixed because it requires a replacement of components and not software through some sort of firmware update, correct? Well, not exactly. According to the same customer, the problem isn't fixed. This is because it turned out that it wasn't a defect unique to my equipment, but a defect common to the enclosures of the EOS R5 Mark II. And according to the person in charge, it's probably the first case in the country, and it's currently being escalated to the quality management department and is considering countermeasures. So it looks like, according to what this customer's conversation with Canon had to say, is that this issue is widespread. But this is where I have trouble with machine translations, because up until this point, it seems like it's definitely a hardware issue that requires sending your camera in for servicing to replace parts. And it's not just one camera. It appears to be a large, I wouldn't necessarily say all of them, but certainly a large number of them, perhaps a certain block that was manufactured on a certain day. But let's go ahead and hear what he has to say in the next paragraph, because it's almost as though he completely changes tune. Since it's a software or firmware dependent problem, not hardware, it's likely to be fixed in the future. There are rumors of a new firmware update to be released in October, but it's not certain whether it will be fixed in time. If it seems like I've done a complete 180, I haven't. Machine translation can give me a bit of a headache. What I think is going on here is that we're looking at an issue that could largely be fixed in a firmware update, but Canon's still exploring this. Remember that the person who sent their camera in, after he got those parts replaced, it didn't fix the issue. Now, there could be some sort of hardware component. It could be limited to a certain number of units. We don't know at this point. We need to wait and find out a little bit more. The one thing I can say about the R5 Mark II after shooting with it for about 6 weeks is I have noticed something about the autofocus system. It's very fast, it's snappy, it seems to be more accurate than the R5 Mark I by, well, a considerable margin. So I'm pretty impressed with it. Now, there was one situation with the 100 to 500 a couple of weeks back, and I was shooting close to the minimum shooting distance. You know what I'm trying to say. And I turned it off, turned it on, it just didn't seem to cooperate. I focused much further down, like 20, 30 feet down, and then brought it back and it worked fine. It only happened once, so I didn't make a big deal about it. But there is something else I did have a bit of a problem with, and it was shooting video. Now again, this only happened twice, which is why I haven't done a separate video about it, but I want to tell you about it now. When I shoot video, I'm always shooting in manual mode. The shutter most often is 1/60th of a second. I'm shooting in Canon Log 2, And ISO, when I'm shooting in Canon Log 2, is ISO 800. Now, I might change that to 1600 if I need to, but pretty well it's always going to be 800. And then I use the aperture, the f-stop, to make sure everything's exposed properly. Well, in this one particular situation, as you can see from this video here, everything looks good. Then all of a sudden, it's as though I adjusted the f-stop, but I didn't. I checked the settings and the ISO hadn't changed, the shutter hadn't changed, and nor had any of the other settings. And so I wondered, okay, maybe it's an issue. Maybe there's some settings in the menu that I might have changed and it functions differently than the R5. And I looked for any automatic adjustments that I could find in there that were turned on, and I couldn't find any. Then a few weeks later, I was on a new trail shooting my dog and my son, and it happened again. Now, thankfully, it didn't get in the way of what I ended up as a result with. The footage looks great. I'm very happy with it, but it really kind of bothered me. And again, I went through the menus. I didn't see anything. It's almost as though the autofocus is on auto and it's adjusting itself, but it's not doing it in one of those smooth ways. It's doing it as almost as though I'm adjusting the aperture. So when you adjust the aperture, even in smaller increments, you can see that instantly, but I'm not making any changes. So because I've only seen this happen twice, has anybody else encountered this particular issue? And I know what some of you are thinking. Have I called Canon, their support center? And I haven't. You see, the first time I called them, they didn't even have the manual themselves. They hadn't had the camera in hand. And I find that whenever you call Canon, Apple, any company, when they just released a product, the staff aren't going to be very knowledgeable, and you're going to be on the phone, on hold for a long time while they look through manuals. And this is one of those situations that involves experience. So what I was hoping to do is just wait for a firmware update or two and see if it continues to happen. And if it goes away, great. If it doesn't, then maybe go into one of those support calls. But if you've encountered that problem, and again, my shooting settings, I generally shoot 4K fine, 10-bit 422, Canon Log 2. And that's all I shoot. Unless, of course, I've accidentally left it in product mode or high speed mode, then the settings are a little bit different. Whenever I'm shooting product photography or product videos, I go to 8-bit because I don't need log. I don't need to spend my time grading it. I don't have to worry about anything like that. Anyhow, so back to the main story of this video. Let us know if you're noticing any jerky movements. I've shot plenty of scenes, and if it is jerky, it was never to the point where I really noticed it, where it was an issue, where it got in the way. Like I said, the only two issues I had was one with the 100 to 500 millimeter when I was shooting relatively close, but not within the range of where it could shoot. And of course, with the shooting in video mode and getting those really strange, like I said, it would just seem to almost as though the aperture was being adjusted, but wasn't. I get a sense there's something else in this camera that I'm not aware of that's automatically changing this, because the main reason for shooting in manual, right, is you have complete control over your settings. Anyhow, if you're interested in purchasing the R5 Mark II, well, it's still $42.99. I don't think we're going to see it on sale for Black Friday. Why? Well, because we're starting to see more and more people waiting, well, a good 6 weeks to 2 months. And there's no way Canon's going to offer a discount on a camera that they can't keep up with. Why do that? But the R5 Mark I, it's on sale $29.99, but on Black Friday we could see it go on for even cheaper. We've seen it as low as $28.99. In fact, just a couple of weeks ago it was $28.99. But could we see it actually go below that? $27.99, $26.99. You also want to pay attention to refurbished units and also used units, because you can now pick up the camera for around $2,000 US, which is a really, really snappy deal. Plus, if that's too expensive for you, take a look at the deals. I've got about 20 or 30 of them down below for Nikon and Canon. The R6, the Mark II, it's $500 off at $19.99. It's a very, very good deal. There's so many great deals on, even the R100, the R50, a whole bunch of Nikon cameras on sale. And if you happen to use any of my affiliate links down below, just to be aware, I get a small commission or fee back. It's anywhere from 2 to 5%. should you purchase anything. And for those of you that do use my links, a big thanks goes out to you, because you're one of the reasons that keeps this channel on the air. After a long day of work, like today in the office, I come home, and instead of sitting down to relax, putting my feet up in front of the TV and having a nice frosty beverage, I come right down here, flick on my laptop, and start recording so you can have a video early the next day. So a big thanks to those of you that have used my affiliate links in the past. And also, if you've been watching these videos on a regular basis and watching it to the very end and you haven't subscribed, go ahead and hit that subscribe button and tell all your friends. As I'm getting tongue-tied, I'm going to go ahead and end off the video. Thank you so much for watching. Have yourself a great week, and we'll see you again soon.